grow all of these vegetables, fresh vegetables, and we have to find a way to enjoy them, and the only way to do that is through cooking. Now, I don't shy away from the kitchen myself. I enjoy cooking, and I especially enjoy cooking things that I've grown myself. So today we're going to make something out of all the greens that I have. We have an abundance of greens. I was just outside picking some, and you can see here we have some Swiss chard. You can see the beautiful color of that. We have some fresh kale. That look at the texture of that. That's some beautiful stuff right there. Also, we have some spinach that I've already picked and washed, as well as some beet greens, which a lot of people, especially up north here, don't really enjoy or know that they can enjoy them. You can see here, these are small beets that I've picked. They were crowding other beets that are going to be larger. So I picked them, and I can use, as well as the small beets, I can use the greens off of those plants. So I'm going to mix these all together, and I'm going to make a fresh greens frittata, which is great breakfast or lunch item, and my wife really enjoys it, so I'm going to make it for her. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is take some of these greens and prepare them. I already have a bunch that I've previously prepared from pickings that we've done yesterday and the day before. Those are all washed and prepped. I wash these items here, and particularly with the kale, my wife doesn't really enjoy the harshness and the texture of the stems, so I'll just take my knife and just carve right down the stems here until there's really nothing left there. And you don't have to get it all. This is going to cook up. We're going to cook this and chop it up, so you don't have to get it all, but the majority of it, especially the larger part of the stems, we can take off, and it'll make for a more consistent bite in the food. So then from there, I'm just going to take this and just chop it up. We're going to cook all this down, so this step really doesn't matter, but it makes it, as far as the cooking process goes, it's all going to cook down, but it makes it a little easier to handle. I'm going to do the same thing with the chard, though the chard, it doesn't really have the same texture as the kale stalks, so I use more of the chard stalks than I do of the kale. So I can chop that up as well. Now all of this is going to get cooked and put in our frittata after I combine it with some of the other ingredients that I have. And I'll do that also for the spinach and for the beet greens as well. And then mix it all together and cook it on the stove. I'll show you that in a second. Once I have all of the greens chopped up and the vegetables are all prepared, I'm going to take a very large skillet and put this on the stove and heat it up. I like to saute in olive oil, and I just got this olive oil from Greece. It was our neighbor's family over in Greece has 100 olive trees, and they make their own olive oil. They still have family over there. They press the olive oil for them, and so this is homemade olive oil, which is fantastic. So I'm just going to put that liberally in the pan and pour it out. Turn it on to medium-high heat, and then start sauteing all the vegetables mixed in together. Now you can add a lot of vegetables. These are all going to cook down. That was the kale. Here's the chard with its nice color. Here's some spinach. Now if I put all the vegetables in, it'd be up to here, so I'm going to let it cook down for a few minutes. And now while I'm waiting for the vegetables to cook, I'm going to start making the egg mixture that's going to go into the frittata. To do that, I'm going to grab some of the eggs that I got this morning, and including one of my new egg layers just came online. Here are the eggs that I usually get, and this new one wasn't supposed to start laying till September, but she came online already, so very excited about that. So I'll just crack these eggs and get them into the pan. Now, do whatever you have to get eggs cracked. Usually it's easier to crack them on the inside of the pan, because if you crack them on the edge, the egg can roll down the edge, so you don't want that. But if you crack them on the inside of the pan or crack them with a knife, you can usually get better results on your countertop. So just something I found out over time. So I'm using 6 eggs, and I'm going to put in just a little bit of nutmeg into the egg. Now this is my wife's recipe, something that she made up herself and she enjoys it, so that's the way I'm going to make it. You can see already that the greens are breaking down. I have enough greens that I could probably make a couple of these. I typically use a fork to mix. I could use a whip. A lot of chefs will tell you that it gets more air into it, makes it lighter and fluffier. I feel okay using a fork. I'll also put a little milk in there. I know some people will use water to make their eggs a little fluffier. I like to add a little milk. My wife doesn't like to add milk, so I'm not going to do that on this one since it's her recipe. You can see the color here of the vegetables mixing, and they're also getting very soft, and the volume of the vegetables is going down tremendously. So I'm going to take this opportunity to add a few more. There's a little more spinach. And here's a little more chard. There we go, and we can get that incorporated into the rest of it. Now here's the olive oil label right there, if anybody's interested. I'm sure they sell it somewhere, but we got it at the neighborhood yard sale when we were talking about olive oil, and they brought over a bottle, which was fantastic. Fortunately for me, my neighbor's father, who's originally from Greece, he's an avid gardener, so he wanted to take a garden tour, and I think he was impressed, but kind of hard to say. But they make some great olive oil, and they were kind enough to get us a bottle. Now, I've mixed up my egg mixture. I've got the extra vegetables in here. I'm going to put some Celtic sea salt on here. And some pepper, and that will blend with the nutmeg later on in the mixture. I'm also going to take the chance here to get my oven preheated up to 350, and this will cook for a half hour. I'll leave the details on the screen. Alright, I'm going to turn off the heat, grab my 8x8 inch glass pan, give it a quick spray with some avocado oil, And here we go. Now you want to fill up this pan, and then when you put the egg mixture in, it's going to permeate through all the leaves of all the greens. Now there are a couple extra ingredients that my wife likes on her frittata. First is goat cheese, sliced and put on top, and then she likes that covered with Pecorino Romano cheese. So I decided to get some goat cheese from my friend Peter, and Peter's at Valley View Farms, and I did a haying video with Peter not too long ago. So here, you take a look. Here's a shameless plug for really good cheese. That's Valley View Farms. Valley View Farm cheese is really good. You've seen the goats that go into making that in my haying video that I had out previously. I'm just going to layer these thin slices of goat cheese on top of the frittata. And get a little more. I'm sure she won't object. And a little extra. I'm just going to move that around. And then the next thing is to get some Pecorino Romano. If you haven't had this, we eat this on almost everything. This in soups, certainly in pasta dishes. So I'm just going to grind that right onto it and cover the surface of the frittata with pecorino. There. Take a look at that. And that's what you want. Now I'm going to put it in the oven. Once it gets up to temperature, it's almost there, and bake it for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. And then we'll see what it looks like. Hey. Hey, there we are. You see the cheese melted over the cheese? That sounds good. Cheese over cheese kind of dish. We'll let it cool for a few minutes and then we'll cut into it. There. Now that this has had a chance to cool down, I think that we can take a moment and cut it and see what it looks like. Now if you shake this, you won't see that gelatinous kind of movement. You'll know that it's firmly done. You give it a little shake, and after you take it out of the oven, if it's shaken just a little bit, you'll know that it's still liquidy, so it's not really ready. That should do it. And I'll take this piece right here. What's interesting about this is you hear a lot of farm to table. And a lot of people are talking about these restaurants that are farm-to-table restaurants. Those of us who've had gardens have been doing this for years. And I know I figured it out years ago when I'm looking at ingredients to my food in the supermarket and I don't understand a word that's being said. But when you look at ingredients for things like salad and it says lettuce instead of monosodium glutamate and ascorbic acid and all these other things, you start to understand that fresher food from the farm that you bring to your table is likely better for you. And I think all of us who are in the gardening business know this ourselves. So this is definitely everything that came from the garden and came from my chicken coop. The eggs, the cheese is from the farm up the street from Valley View Farms. You can look at valleyviewcheese.com is, I believe, their website. The cheese is theirs. The vegetables are all from out in the garden here that I picked today and yesterday. So this is the freshest it's going to get. And take a look at this. I'll show you up close. Look at that. If you like fresh greens and eggs, this is for you. And that goat cheese on the top, just another bonus. So I'm going to bring this over to my wife who's working in the office over here and give her a sample of it. This was my first cooking show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some good information from it. And I hope you try the Garden Fresh Veggie Frittata. And that's it. I'm Scott. This is the X-Fed Homestead. We'll see you next time.